Mike Pence just called J.D. Vance a Trump puppet on live TV. But what Vance said back, it flipped the entire narrative and sent shockwaves through the GOP. This isn't just political drama. It might be the moment that changes 2024 forever. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The political world was rocked to its core when former Vice President Mike Pence stepped up to a podium, looked straight into the camera, and delivered one of the most blistering attacks the Republican Party has seen in years. With reporters eagerly leaning forward, microphones pointed, and cameras rolling live across major news networks, Pence didn't hesitate. There was no warming up to the moment, no political dance, just a cold, cutting sentence. J.D. Vance is nothing more than a Trump puppet. Boom. The atmosphere changed instantly. Gasps could be heard in the crowd. Pencils stopped scribbling. Reporters looked at one another, stunned. Even some of Pence's own aides appeared momentarily frozen. It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it. Sharp, direct, with the weight of frustration that had clearly been building for months. And in that single moment, Pence had not only called out one of the GOP's rising stars, he had thrown down the gauntlet in what many saw as an open declaration of war within the Republican Party. The fallout was immediate. Within seconds, clips of the quote began circulating on social media. Conservative influencers, political analysts, and everyday voters alike began dissecting the attack. Hashtags like Talk Trump Puppet and Pence vs. Vance started trending. Twitter exploded. YouTube reaction videos popped up within hours. News networks ran the quote on a loop. The timing was especially shocking. Pence, known for his carefully chosen words and measured tone, was not someone who typically engaged in open party infighting. But here he was, calling out J.D. Vance, the best-selling author turned U.S. Senator from Ohio, and a man widely seen as a potential running mate for Donald Trump in 2024. Why now? Why go after Vance so aggressively and so publicly? A battle of ideologies or something more? To understand the moment, you have to understand the deeper battle going on beneath the surface of today's Republican Party. Mike Pence represents the old guard of the GOP, traditional conservative values, evangelical roots, decorum, respect for institutions. The Constitution as a guiding light. J.D. Vance represents the new wave, the MAGA wing, loud, bold, aggressive, deeply anti-establishment. He's not interested in appeasing the media or following the D.C. playbook. He's interested in fighting, winning, and protecting what he and his supporters believe is under attack in America. For Pence, J.D. Vance is more than a rising star. He's a symbol of the Republican Party's transformation into something Pence doesn't recognize anymore. And while Pence has tried to take the high road in most cases, this time, something changed. Some insiders suggest Pence had simply had enough. Enough of watching Trump loyalists reshape the party. Enough of pretending the GOP isn't splitting in two. Enough of seeing his own influence fade. The statement that shook the party. J.D. Vance is nothing more than a Trump puppet. It was short, brutal, and strategic. By using the word puppet, Pence wasn't just accusing Vance of loyalty. He was accusing him of having no mind of his own, of blindly following Trump's every move, of sacrificing personal principles for political gain. It was an insult and a warning to the Republican base. But if Pence thought this shot would put Vance on the defensive, he was about to be proven very wrong. Shockwaves. Beyond the headlines, political commentators on both sides of the aisle immediately weighed in. Some praised Pence for finally speaking up, saying it was a much-needed act of leadership from someone who's always played the loyal soldier. Others called it a desperate move, claiming Pence was lashing out because his chances of capturing the Republican nomination, or even staying relevant, were slipping away. Meanwhile, Trump world fired back. MAGA loyalists and influencers defended Vance, painting Pence as a backstabber who had lost touch with the movement. Some even accused Pence of siding with the media, with one commentator tweeting, "Mike Pence just gave CNN their dream." Soundbite. Who's the real puppet here? Within 24 hours, what started as a single sentence became a full-blown narrative war. And then, the response that no one saw coming. If this was meant to be a takedown, Pence would soon realize he had picked the wrong fight. J.D. Vance didn't retreat. He didn't dodge the media. And when the cameras turned to him, he delivered one brilliantly cutting sentence that flipped the script entirely. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Because what Vance said next didn't just defend himself, it ignited a firestorm, won over even more support, and possibly shifted the future of the Republican Party. Stay with us. You don't want to miss what happens next. To understand why Mike Pence's fiery comment about J.D. Vance hit so hard, and why it matters, you have to step back and look at the bigger picture. This wasn't just a random outburst. It wasn't just one Republican calling out another. This was a collision of two political identities fighting for control of the same party. Let's start with Mike Pence. The Pence path, the last stand of the old guard. Since stepping out of the White House in 2021, Mike Pence has been walking a political tightrope. On one side, he was Trump's vice president, loyal, dutiful, and supportive through most of the administration. But everything changed on January 6, 2021, when Pence refused Trump's demand to overturn the election results. That moment split their paths. Pence was instantly seen by many Trump supporters as a traitor, while others viewed him as a defender of the Constitution. Since then, he's been quietly but consistently trying to rebuild his image, not as Trump's sidekick, but as a moral compass for a party he believes has lost its way. He's leaned hard into his identity as a traditional conservative. Calm. Under pressure grounded in faith and family, a man who values the Constitution above personality, and someone who believes in policy over political theater. Pence's vision of the Republican Party is one that's predictable, measured, and institutional. He speaks to voters who long for the Reagan era, when conservatism meant economic freedom, small government, and respect for institutions, not viral tweets or political warfare, but the GOP of today. It's a whole different beast. Enter J.D. Vance, the new MAGA machine. On the other side of the divide stands J.D. Vance, a best-selling author turned senator from Ohio, and one of the most vocal champions of the MAGA movement. Let's not forget, Vance wasn't always a Trump guy. In fact, during Trump's first rise to power, Vance openly criticized him, called him noxious, said he might be America's Hitler. But like many politicians who underestimated Trump's staying power, Vance did a full 180. Why? Because he saw what many others eventually realized. Trump's grip on the Republican base wasn't temporary. It was transformational. Vance recalibrated, aligned himself with Trump, and became one of his fiercest defenders in Washington. Trump rewarded that loyalty by endorsing Vance for Senate, helping him secure victory in deep red Ohio. Since then, J.D. Vance has become a poster boy for the post-Trump GOP, anti-establishment, anti-media, unapologetically populist, and deeply loyal too. Trump's worldview, where Pence talks about restoring dignity to the GOP, Vance talks about fighting the regime. Where Pence speaks in sermons, Vance fires off viral sound bites. It's old school versus new wave, and they are completely incompatible. The VP rumors that lit the fuse now, fast forward to today. Trump is back in the spotlight, campaigning hard and dominating the GOP primary polls. While his base remains rock solid, the question remains, who will be his running mate in 2024? The short list includes familiar names like Kristi Noem, Elise Stefanik, and yes, J.D. Vance, and that's where things get really interesting. Insiders say Trump is looking for loyalty above all else. He doesn't want another Pence, someone who might flip under pressure. He wants someone who will go to battle with him and for him. J.D. Vance checks nearly every box. He's loyal, he's articulate, he's media savvy, and he knows how to go viral without compromising the MAGA message. And for Pence? That's a direct threat. He may not be in the running for VP again, but Pence still wants to shape the future of the GOP. He's been quietly working behind the scenes, trying to keep the old-school conservative flame alive. Watching someone like Vance rise to national prominence, possibly just one heartbeat away from the presidency, must feel like watching his vision of the party slowly disappear. That's why many political analysts believe Pence's outburst wasn't just personal. It was highly calculated. It was a message to the base, to Trump, and to the entire Republican establishment. You may control the headlines, but I still hold the soul of this party. It was the kind of line that draws a line in the sand. And now, it's open war. So when Pence called J.D. Vance a Trump puppet, he wasn't just insulting a man. He was attacking a movement, a reshaped Republican Party that no longer looks to the past, but is charging full speed into a new, uncharted future. But what Pence may not have expected? Vance had a response locked, loaded, and ready to fire back. A single sentence that would turn the entire conversation upside down. When the political firestorm ignited by Mike Pence's Trump puppet comment reached J.D. Vance, most people expected a cautious, carefully worded response, maybe even a little deflection. After all, the attack came from a former vice president, a man still respected by many conservatives, particularly older voters and traditionalists. But J.D. Vance, he didn't flinch. When reporters caught up with him just hours later, microphones in his face, cameras rolling, he didn't hesitate. No long speech, no spin, no PR doublespeak. He looked straight into the camera and dropped one devastating line. I'd rather be a Trump puppet than a DC mannequin. Boom. That was it. No follow-up, no backpedaling, just one clean-cutting sentence. Instant. Political earthquake. The moment that line left his mouth, you could practically hear the collective gasp across the internet. Within minutes, the video clip was everywhere. Twitter X timelines exploded with the hashtag Trump puppet TikTok users. Stitch the moment into political commentary and memes right-wing. Podcasters and YouTubers were uploading reaction videos in real time. The phrase became an instant rallying cry. Trump puppet no longer sounded like an insult. It sounded like defiance, like loyalty to the movement, not to the political elite. And the DC mannequin jab? That hit deep. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a character assassination of Pence's entire political persona. In just 7 words, Vance painted Pence as stiff, scripted, out of touch. A man who looked good in a suit but stood for nothing. The kind of politician the base used to trust, but now barely tolerates. Why it worked so well? This wasn't just a viral moment. It was strategy in action. J.D. Vance did something few politicians can do well. He flipped a narrative in real time. Pence tried to frame Vance as weak, spineless, and dependent on Trump. Vance turned that into a strength. His response made it sound like being a Trump puppet was preferable to being another fake politician mouthing talking points for approval from lobbyists and corporate donors. Think about the imagery in that sentence. Trump puppet suggests loyalty. But in MAGA circles, loyalty is virtue number 1. DC mannequin suggests lifelessness, hollowness, style over substance. Pence came across as a polished wax figure from a past political era. Vance? He came across as real, raw, and ready to fight. The MAGA movement responds. Within hours, the entire MAGA base mobilized behind Vance. Big names in conservative media, from Steve Bannon to Charlie Kirk, shared the clip, praised the line, and declared Vance the future of the movement. Memes were flying. Memes were shirts with the phrase, Trump puppet DC mannequin, started circulating online. And Trump himself? Sources close to his team say he loved the line. It wasn't just political theater. It was a sign that Vance could do exactly what Trump loves to see, turn weakness into firepower. More importantly, it showed that Vance could go toe-to-toe with establishment figures like Pence and win in the court of public opinion. Pence's blowback begins. While Vance was trending, Mike Pence was suddenly under pressure. His line, meant to wound, was now backfiring. Instead of making Vance look small, it made Pence look bitter, even jealous. Social media comments swirled with takes like, "Pence just made Vance cooler than ever. This is why the base left Pence behind. No fire, no fight. J.D. Vance speaks like he means it. Pence talks like he's still rehearsing." And that last point stings. Because in politics today, authenticity beats Polish every single time. Pence might still speak to the Sunday church crowd, but Vance speaks to the people online, in diners, at rallies, and they're the ones showing up to vote. A political star is born. Again. This wasn't just a defense. It was a moment. A viral, made-for-TV, made-for-YouTube moment that instantly elevated J.D. Vance from rising conservative to serious national figure. In one sentence, Vance neutralized an attack from a former vice president, cemented his loyalty to Trump without sounding weak, reinforced his anti-establishment brand, and, maybe most importantly, energized the MAGA base. The political world had already been watching him closely. But now, they were on notice. One sentence changed everything. In a world where entire campaigns can rise or fall on a single viral moment, J.D. Vance proved he knows exactly how to play the game. Pence swung hard, but Vance hit back harder, with precision. And, as the dust settled, one thing became clear. Pence may have tried to call the shots, but J.D. Vance just stole the spotlight. What happened between Mike Pence and J.D. Vance isn't just some minor political squabble. It's not just about bruised egos or differing opinions. No, this moment cuts much deeper. This is about the future of the Republican Party, and who gets to define it. Right now, the GOP is caught in a full-blown identity crisis, and the clash between Pence and Vance is the perfect symbol of that internal war. The old guard. Polished, predictable, and playing by the rules on one side. You have what many call the Republican establishment. Think Mike Pence, Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, and even former President George W. Bush. This group believes in tradition. They speak with calm, polished language. They wear their ties tight, smile at fundraisers, and lean heavily on the moral high ground. For decades, they were the face of the Republican Party. They passed budgets, negotiated deals, attended prayer, breakfasts. To them, politics was a careful game of chess played behind closed doors. They still believe that the way to win elections is to appeal to swing voters, protect institutions, and act like the adults in the room. But here's the thing. That version of the GOP is losing ground, fast. The MAGA movement, loud, loyal, and ready for war on the other side. You've got the Trump wing of the party, and it's not just a wing anymore. It's becoming the whole plane. This side is bold. They're loud. They don't care about media approval or polite debates. They care about power, authenticity, and fighting back, hard. And J.D. Vance is one of their rising generals. He speaks the language of the base. He talks about the deep state, criticizes the corporate media, and embraces Trump without apology. He doesn't just echo the MAGA message. He evolves it, shaping it for the next generation of conservative voters. To Trump voters, J.D. Vance is what Mike Pence could never be, real, raw, and willing to fight dirty. That's why Pence's attack didn't land. If anything, it felt like the last gasp of a political era that's quickly slipping away. What Pence was really trying to do, now let's be clear, Mike Pence is no fool. He didn't call J.D. Vance a Trump puppet by accident. This was a calculated move. He's watching what's happening in the GOP. He sees his influence fading. And as Trump moves closer to locking down the 2024 nomination, Pence likely saw this moment as a warning shot. It wasn't just aimed at Vance. It was aimed at Trump, his allies, and the entire MAGA machine. It was a way of saying, you may have the crowd, but we still believe in the Constitution. We still believe in order, decency, and the rule of law. But here's the problem. That message isn't moving people like it used to. Vance's comeback. changed the game. J.D. Vance didn't just defend himself, he flipped the script entirely. With one sentence, "I'd rather be a Trump puppet than a DC mannequin," he mocked Pence's message, exposed his weakness, and rallied the base. And in doing so, he may have done something bigger. He showed that the MAGA movement no longer needs Trump himself to survive. Figures like Vance, Carrie Lake, Byron Donalds, and others are now strong enough to carry the banner. Trump may have lit the fire, but guys like J.D. Vance are keeping it burning and taking it into new territory. What this means for 2024, let's look ahead. Trump is dominating GOP primary polls. If he secures the nomination, which many expect, his next big move is choosing a running mate. Will he go with a safe, traditional pick? Or will he double down and pick someone like J.D. Vance, a warrior, a fighter, and someone who never left the MAGA battlefield? If it's Vance, the message couldn't be clearer. The old Republican Party is dead. The party of handshakes, civility, and political restraint is being replaced by something newer, bolder, and far more aggressive. And that transformation? It's not happening in the shadows. It's happening in front of our eyes, one viral moment at a time. The bottom line, this Pence versus Vance moment was never just about two men. It's about two futures for the GOP. One that wants to restore what once was, and one that's determined to burn it down and rebuild it from the ground up. Which side wins? Well, that's up to the voters. But if J.D. Vance's viral rise says anything, it's this. The MAGA movement isn't fading, it's evolving. And if Trump taps someone like Vance to stand beside him in 2024, it won't just be a campaign, it'll be a takeover. Now the big question on everyone's mind. What does this all mean moving forward? We're not just talking about a spicy political moment anymore. This isn't just trending drama. The clash between Mike Pence and J.D. Vance, punctuated by one explosive sentence, may very well be a defining moment for the future of the Republican Party and the next presidential election. And the ripple effects are already being felt. Pence's shrinking platform. Let's start with Mike Pence. For years, he stood as a symbol of principled conservatism, faith, family values, the Constitution, and calm leadership. He wanted to be the adult in the room, especially after January 6th, when he famously refused to overturn the 2020 election results. That move earned him the respect of moderates, but alienated much of Trump's base. Since then, Pence has tried to reassert himself as the voice of real conservatism. He's appeared at forums, spoken at think tank events, and published a memoir meant to reclaim his version of the GOP's soul. But here's the harsh truth. His support is shrinking. Among Republican voters, especially the base that decides primaries, Pence often polls in the single digits. His appearances are met with polite applause, not passion. His talking points, while thoughtful, don't go viral. In a party now fueled by energy, aggression, and authenticity, Pence increasingly feels like a figure from the past. Even his recent attack on J.D. Vance, meant to stir up a conversation, ended up doing the opposite. It ignited a movement that left Pence looking like the out-of-touch insider. The meteoric rise of J.D. Vance. Then there's J.D. Vance, a man whose political journey has been anything but predictable. Once a Trump critic, he made a dramatic pivot that aligned him closely with the MAGA base. His transformation wasn't just rhetoric, it was effective. Trump endorsed him. He won the Ohio Senate seat, and now he's becoming a central figure in the conservative revolution. What's unique about Vance is how he bridges several key demographics. Young conservatives who feel alienated by the old guard blue-collar workers, who want someone who talks like them, online conservatives, and influencers who value sharp, punchy messaging over polished speeches. And after this latest moment, his viral, 7-word comeback to Mike Pence, his national profile exploded. In that instant, Vance showed 3 critical things. He can handle high-stakes pressure. He can respond with sharp wit and control the narrative. He knows how to fire up a crowd, on the ground and online. Those aren't just good qualities. Those are the exact traits any serious contender for national leadership needs. Political insiders are paying attention, It didn't take long for political strategists to start whispering the same thing. This might be a turning point. J.D. Vance isn't just surviving the spotlight, he's owning it. His response wasn't just a clever line, it was a signal that he understands the new rules of politics in the post-Trump world. Be bold or be ignored, be loyal or be left behind, be real or be replaced. And he passed the test with flying colors. Already, pundits and insiders are speculating. Could this moment catapult Vance onto the national stage in a much bigger way? Could this be the spark that moves him from rising star to serious contender? Trump's inner circle is watching. Let's not forget the one man whose opinion still shapes the entire Republican field, Donald J. Trump. If there's one thing Trump values above all, it's loyalty. J.D. Vance has proven his, over and over. But he's not just loyal, he's effective. He can talk to voters in a way few others can. He has a background that connects with the working class, yet he's sharp enough to battle it out on the Senate floor or national debate stage. And here's where it gets real. If Trump wins the GOP nomination in 2024, and all signs say he's the favorite, he'll need a vice president who can do three things: fire up the base, defend Trump fiercely, represent. The future of the movement J.D. Vance checks all three boxes. Insiders close to Trump say he was impressed by Vance's Senate win. But moments like this, viral, commanding, powerful, could push Vance onto the VP shortlist faster than anyone expected. One sentence that changed the game in today's political world: it doesn't take a book to make an impact. Sometimes, it only takes a moment, a line, a clip, a vibe that sticks. I'd rather be a Trump puppet than a DC mannequin. That one sentence ended a news cycle for Pence ignited, a new one for Vance, and reminded everyone that this is no longer the party of polite politics, it's the party of fighters. And J.D. Vance? He just proved he's one of the strongest. If this showdown between Pence and Vance tells us anything, it's that the Republican Party is changing fast. Who do you think is right? Is J.D. Vance the future, or is Mike Pence trying to save what's left of the old GOP? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a political twist like this. Until next time, stay sharp and stay tuned.